Before empires rose and fell in Europe, before railroads scarred the wilderness, a people emerged from the Rocky Mountains who would reshape an entire continent. They were called many names by their enemies. The Apache feared them. The Spanish could not stop them. The Texans trembled at their approach, but they called themselves simply Numunu, the people. This is the story of the Comanche, the greatest cavalry force the world has ever known. Warriors who built an empire that stretched farther than any European power north of the Rio Grande. An empire that demanded tribute from Spanish governors, dictated terms to Mexican presidents, and held back American expansion for generations. But this is more than a story of conquest and war. This is a story of transformation, resilience, and survival. From mountain hunters to masters of the plains, from fierce independence to forced surrender, from near extinction to cultural renewal, this is the epic saga of the Comanche Nation, lords of the southern plains. Long before they were Comanche, they were Shoshone, living in the towering peaks and high valleys of what is now Wyoming. The Wind River Shoshone, as they were known, survived as hunter-gatherers in one of the harshest environments on the continent. They moved with the seasons, following elk through mountain passes, gathering roots and berries, fishing in cold, rushing streams. Life was hard, resources scarce, and winters brutal beyond imagination. Their language belonged to the Uto-Aztecan family, connecting them to peoples stretching from the Great Basin to central Mexico. They called themselves Numunu, the people, a name they would carry with pride through centuries of transformation. These mountain dwellers had no permanent settlements, no agriculture, no written language. What they had was something far more valuable: adaptability, courage, and an unbreakable will to survive. But around the year 1600, something changed. Word spread through the mountains of a miraculous creature the Spanish had brought to the south, an animal that could carry a man faster than he could run, farther than he could walk, an animal that would revolutionize life on the plains forever: the horse. The Spanish conquistadors brought horses to the Americas in the 1500s, animals unseen on this continent for 10,000 years. To the indigenous peoples who first encountered them, horses were nothing short of magical. They gave their riders godlike speed and power, and the Comanche were among the very first to recognize their potential. In the late 1600s, as Spanish settlements expanded in New Mexico, horses began to spread northward through trade and raids. The Shoshone acquired them through trade networks, but for the Comanche, horses represented something more than transportation. They saw in horses the key to a completely different way of life, a life that required them to leave the mountains and descend onto the endless grasslands of the South. Sometime between 1680 and 1700, a group of Shoshone made a fateful decision. They would break away from their mountain kin and follow the buffalo herd south, using these magnificent horses to build a new existence. This southern migration marks the birth of the Comanche as a distinct people, the beginning of an empire that would dominate the southern plains for over a century and a half. By 1706, Spanish records in New Mexico document the Comanche presence on their northeastern frontier. They were pushing south relentlessly, and in their path stood the Apache. For generations, the Apache had controlled the southern plains, from present-day Colorado to central Texas. They were formidable warriors, feared and respected, but they were no match for the Comanche on horseback. The Comanche didn't just ride horses, they became one with them. Children learned to ride before they could walk steadily. Boys were given small bows at age 5 and taught to shoot from horseback by their grandfathers. By their teens, Comanche warriors could ride at full gallop, hanging off the side of their horse, using the animal's body as a shield while firing arrows with deadly accuracy. They could change horses mid-ride, leap from one mount to another, reload their weapons while thundering across the plains at breakneck speed. One witness claimed a Comanche warrior could fire 20 arrows in the time it took a soldier to reload a musket once. This wasn't exaggeration. This was tactical superiority that would define plains warfare for the next 2 centuries. The Apache, still primarily on foot or with fewer horses, couldn't compete. Battle after battle, the Comanche drove them southward. By the mid-1700s, the Apache had been pushed completely off the southern plains. What had been Apache territory became Comancheria, Comanche country, a vast empire stretching from the Arkansas River in Colorado to central Texas, from the foothills of the Rockies to the crosstimbers of Texas, an area larger than many European nations. But horses gave the Comanche more than military dominance. They gave them wealth, mobility, and the foundation of an entirely new culture. To understand the Comanche, you must understand their relationship with horses. A Comanche man's wealth was measured not in land or gold, but in horses. A successful warrior might own 50, 100, even hundreds of horses. These herds required constant management, fresh grazing land, water sources, and protection. The Comanche became master horse breeders, developing strains known for speed, endurance, and intelligence. They traded horses to other tribes, the Kiowa, the Wichita, the Osage. By the late 1700s, Comanche horses were flowing all the way to St. Louis through elaborate trade networks. Spanish settlers in Texas and New Mexico paid premium prices for Comanche horses. But the Comanche didn't just sell horses. They took them. Raids into Spanish Texas and New Mexico became a regular part of Comanche life. These weren't random acts of violence. They were calculated economic and military operations. A raiding party might strike a settlement or ranch at night during a full moon when they could see to ride, taking hundreds of horses and disappearing into the vastness of the plains before pursuit could be organized. The Spanish and later the Mexicans found themselves in an impossible situation. They could chase the raiders, but Comanche warriors on fresh horses simply outran them. They could try to fortify their settlements, but Comancheria was too vast, the frontier too long. Some found it easier and safer to simply buy back stolen horses rather than fight for them. This horse economy transformed Comanche society completely. Bands became more mobile, following buffalo herds across hundreds of miles. Women could transport larger teepees because horses could pull heavier loads than dogs. The abundance of buffalo meat, made possible by mounted hunting, supported a growing population. The buffalo was everything to the Comanche: food, clothing, shelter, tools, spiritual connection. Before horses, hunting buffalo on foot was dangerous and inefficient. With horses, it became an art form. Comanche hunters used specially trained horses called buffalo runners. These horses were fast, agile, and fearless, trained to run alongside stampeding buffalo while their riders fired arrows into vital organs. A skilled hunter could kill multiple buffalo in a single chase. The entire band would then process the animals, women expertly butchering the carcasses, preserving meat through drying, tanning hides for teepee covers and clothing, saving bones for tools and weapons. Nothing was wasted. Buffalo provided pem-ikan, a preserved food that could last for months. Hides became robes, moccasins, shields. Sinew became bowstrings, horns became cups and tools. Even the stomach lining was used as a cooking vessel. This buffalo-centered, nomadic lifestyle meant the Comanche lived in seasonal patterns. summer camps on the high plains where buffalo congregated, winter camps in sheltered valleys along rivers like the Red River and the Canadian River, constant movement following the herds, always ready to pack up and move within hours. By 1750, the Comanche population had grown to somewhere between 10 and 20,000 people. They had divided into several major bands, each controlling different territories but sharing language, culture, and identity. The Yamparika in the north, the Kotsoteca in the central plains, the Penateka in the south, the Nokoni and the Quahati, each band operated independently, but all were Comanche, all were Nu Munu. They had transformed themselves from struggling mountain hunters into the dominant power of the southern plains. They had horses, they had buffalo, they had territory. Now they would build something unprecedented, a native empire that would challenge European colonial powers on equal terms. Comanche society was built around warfare, but not in the way Europeans understood it. War wasn't about conquering territory to settle it. War was about honor, wealth, revenge, and protecting hunting grounds. A young man proved himself through acts of bravery in battle. A warrior's reputation was everything. Boys trained from childhood for war. They learned to track game across the plains, reading signs invisible to untrained eyes. They learned patience. Stalking buffalo required the ability to remain motionless for hours. They learned cooperation through hunting parties, understanding that survival depended on working together. And always, they practiced horsemanship and weapon skills. When a boy killed his first buffalo, it was celebrated as a rite of passage. When he went on his first war party, usually in his mid-teens, he began the journey toward becoming a full warrior. The most valued members of Comanche society were young men skilled in warfare and horsemanship. They were given comfort in camp, afforded privileges, honored in songs and stories, because everyone knew they might die young defending the people. The ultimate honor was death at the hands of an enemy. Warriors who fell in battle were mourned intensely. Their families would gash their own bodies in grief, cut their hair, burn their possessions, destroy their loved ones' dwelling. The dead warrior's favorite wife was sometimes killed to accompany him to the afterlife, though this practice faded over time, and crucially, the deceased's name was never spoken again by any member of the tribe. Leadership among the Comanche was earned, not inherited. Each band had civil chiefs and war chiefs. Civil chiefs managed daily life, resolved disputes, made decisions about when to move camp, when to hunt. War chiefs led raids and battles, but no chief had absolute authority. Comanche democracy was radical. Decisions were made by consensus in council, and individuals were free to ignore decisions they disagreed with. If a chief lost the confidence of his people, they simply stopped following him. This intense individualism made the Comanche nearly impossible for outsiders to negotiate with. Europeans and Americans wanted to find the Comanche chief who could speak for everyone. No such person existed. A treaty signed with one band meant nothing to another. This decentralized power structure was both a strength and a weakness, giving the Comanche flexibility but also making unified action difficult. By the mid-1700s, the Comanche pose an existential threat to Spanish colonial ambitions in the north. Spanish Texas and New Mexico were supposed to be the crown jewels protecting New Spain's northern frontier. Instead, they had become targets of constant Comanche raids. In 1778, frustrated by Comanche attacks, Spanish forces in New Mexico killed a prominent war chief named Cuerno Verde in battle. In 1780 and 1781, a devastating smallpox epidemic swept through Comancheria, killing thousands. The Comanche also faced new pressures from the east. The Osage, armed with French and American firearms, were becoming formidable rivals. These factors created an opening for peace. In 1785, Spanish officials in Texas, working through Wichita intermediaries, arranged a meeting with Eastern Comanche leaders. 3 chiefs traveled to San Antonio and spent 3 weeks being lavishly entertained by the Spanish governor. The resulting treaty established peace between the Eastern Comanche and Spanish Texas. The following year, an even more significant treaty was signed in New Mexico. After intense internal debate and even the assassination of a chief who opposed peace, the Western Comanche selected Equaracapa, a distinguished warrior known as Iron Shirt, for the Spanish armor he wore in battle, to represent them in negotiations with New Mexican Governor Juan Bautista de Anza. The Treaty of 1786 changed everything. The Comanche gained free access to Spanish markets in Taos, Pecos, and Santa Fe. They received regular gifts from Spanish officials. In return, they agreed to stop raiding New Mexico and to ally with the Spanish against their mutual enemy, the Apache. This wasn't submission. This was sophisticated diplomacy. The Comanche had turned the Spanish into trading partners and military allies while maintaining their independence. With New Mexico secure and peaceful, Comanche warriors could focus their raids southward, deep into the heart of Mexico. The peace with Spain unleashed the full potential of Comanche economic power. They became the dominant traders of the southern plains, controlling commerce across a region larger than many European empires. A class of New Mexican traders called Comancheros emerged, men who spoke both Spanish and Comanche, who traveled into the heart of Comancheria with goods to trade. They brought manufactured items, metal knives, kettles, cloth, guns, ammunition. They traded for buffalo robes, buffalo meat, and especially horses. The Comanche were the primary suppliers of horses to the entire region. They bred them, stole them from Spanish ranches, captured wild mustangs, and traded them to other tribes and to Spanish settlements. Their horse herds numbered in the tens of thousands. In 1795, Comanche were already selling horses to Anglo-American traders. By the mid-1800s, Comanche supplied horses were reaching St. Louis through complex inter-tribal trade networks. But horses weren't the only commodity. The Comanche also traded captives. When they raided settlements, they took prisoners, women, children, sometimes men. Some captives were adopted into Comanche families, becoming full members of the tribe. Some were sold to New Mexican settlers. Others were ransomed back to their families. This practice was common among many Plains tribes, but the Comanche operated it on an industrial scale. Estimates suggest they may have taken up to 20,000 captives over the course of their empire. The Comanche also traded with agricultural tribes to the east, the Wichita, the Caddo, exchanging buffalo products and horses for corn, beans, squash, and other cultivated foods. This trade network made Comanche less vulnerable to drought and buffalo scarcity. Through all of this, Comanche language became the lingua franca of the southern plains. If you wanted to trade, you learned Comanche. If you wanted to negotiate, you used Comanche interpreters. The language spread far beyond Comancheria, a testament to Comanche cultural and economic dominance. By 1830, Comancheria was at its height of power. The empire stretched from the Arkansas River in the north to deep into Texas in the south, from the Rocky Mountains in the west to the Cross Timbers in the east. This territory was larger than the entire European-controlled area north of the Rio Grande at that time. but controlling this vast territory required constant vigilance and military action. The Comanche were surrounded by rivals and enemies. To the north, the Southern Cheyenne and Arapaho pressed down from the Arkansas. The Comanche made peace with them in 1840, granting them hunting rights on Comanche lands in exchange for their friendship. This wasn't weakness, it was pragmatic diplomacy. Better to have the Cheyenne as allies than enemies. To the east, the Osage remained a persistent threat, better armed because of their connections to American traders. To the south, Spanish and later Mexican settlements continued to be targets. The Comanche conducted raids 1,000 miles deep into Mexico, striking within 3 days' ride of Mexico City itself. Mexican ranches lost thousands of horses. Mexican villages lived in terror of Comanche war parties. To the west, ongoing conflict with the Ute threatened Comanche hunting grounds. In 1786, during the same peace negotiations with the Spanish, the Comanche also concluded a separate treaty with the Ute. This Ute-Comanche treaty, negotiated independently of Spanish oversight, demonstrates the sophisticated diplomatic capabilities of both tribes. The Comanche managed this empire through a combination of military might, economic control, and strategic diplomacy. They played Spanish against Mexicans, Mexicans against Americans, Americans against each other. When Mexico won independence from Spain in 1821, the new government tried to maintain peace with the Comanche. But Mexico was weak, drained by years of Revolutionary War, and couldn't provide the gifts and trade goods that Spanish officials had supplied. Comanche raiding resumed with devastating intensity. By the 1830s and 40s, northern Mexico was being destroyed by Comanche attacks. Entire regions were depopulated, ranches abandoned, trade routes cut. The Comanche had effectively detached northern Mexico from effective control by Mexico City, creating a power vacuum that American expansionists would soon exploit. But even at this peak, cracks were appearing. A severe drought struck the southern plains in the 1840s and 1850s. The massive Comanche horse herds competed with buffalo for grass and water. Overhunting by multiple tribes combined with environmental stress caused buffalo populations to crash. The Comanche adapted by eating their horses, but this was a desperate measure. Horses were too politically, militarily, and economically valuable to be food except in the most dire circumstances. And from the east, a new threat was emerging. American settlers were pushing into Texas by the tens of thousands. Unlike the Spanish and Mexicans, who had learned to accommodate Comanche power, these Americans had no interest in coexistence. They wanted the land, they wanted the Comanche gone, and they had the numbers, the weapons, and the determination to make it happen. The age of the Comanche Empire was entering its final and most tragic chapter. When Texas won independence from Mexico in 1836, the new republic found itself sharing a border with Comancheria. Unlike the Spanish and Mexicans before them, the Texans viewed the Comanche not as a power to negotiate with, but as an obstacle to be removed. Texas President Mirabeau Lamar pursued an aggressive policy of violence against Native Americans. He wanted them pushed out or exterminated. This reached a horrifying climax in the spring of 1840 at what became known as the Council House Fight. Comanche chiefs traveled to San Antonio under a flag of truce to negotiate peace and discuss the return of captives. Texas officials, dissatisfied with the negotiations, attempted to arrest the entire Comanche delegation. Fighting erupted inside the council house. When the smoke cleared, 35 Comanches lay dead, including 12 chiefs. The remaining 30, mostly women and children, were imprisoned. 7 Texans also died. The Council House fight was a catastrophe for peace. That summer, a massive Comanche war party, over 500 warriors led by the chief Buffalo Hump, swept through South Texas in retaliation. They devastated the towns of Victoria and Linville, killed 25 Texans, and carried off enormous plunder. As they returned north, Texas forces intercepted them at Plum Creek near present-day Lockhart and inflicted significant casualties on the Comanche. For the next 30 years, Texas and Comancheria existed in a state of perpetual warfare. Comanche war parties struck deep into Texas, taking horses, cattle, and captives. Texas Rangers, a militarized frontier police force, pursued raiders relentlessly. These Rangers were skilled fighters, often as deadly on horseback as the Comanche themselves. They gave no quarter, took few prisoners, and matched Comanche brutality with their own. The violence was cyclical and endless. Comanche raids provoked Texan reprisals. Texan attacks demanded Comanche revenge. Atrocities on both sides created blood feuds that lasted generations. When the United States annexed Texas in 1845 and defeated Mexico in the War of 1846 to 1848, the Comanche found themselves facing a new and far more dangerous enemy. The U.S. government had resources, military organization, and population numbers that dwarfed anything the Comanche had faced before. In 1867, after the Civil War ended, the U.S. government imposed the Medicine Lodge Treaty on the Southern Plains tribes. The treaty created reservations in Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma, and promised that the Comanche, Kiowa, Cheyenne, and Arapaho would receive rations, farming equipment, and protection from white encroachment. But the government failed to enforce the terms. Professional buffalo hunters from Dodge City, Kansas, flooded onto reservation lands, slaughtering buffalo by the tens of thousands. The great herds that had sustained Plains tribes for centuries were being systematically exterminated. By the early 1870s, buffalo populations had collapsed. The Comanche faced starvation. The promised rations never arrived, or arrived sporadically in quantities far too small. White settlers and outlaws stole Indian livestock without punishment. The situation was desperate. In 1874, a young Comanche medicine man named Isatai called for a sun dance, a ceremony the Comanche had never traditionally practiced, but adopted in their desperation. At this gathering, Isatai and a young war leader named Quanah Parker recruited hundreds of warriors from the Comanche, Kiowa, and Cheyenne for a strike against the buffalo hunters. On June 27, 1874, between 200 and 700 warriors attacked the trading post at Adobe Walls in the Texas Panhandle. About 30 buffalo hunters were barricaded inside. The attack failed catastrophically. The hunters' long-range rifles cut down warriors at distances their arrows and older weapons couldn't match. Isatai's medicine, which was supposed to protect them from bullets, failed. Quana himself was wounded. The failed attack on Adobe Walls gave the U.S. military the justification it needed for total war. The Red River War wasn't a single battle. It was a relentless 5-month campaign designed to hunt down every band of Comanche, Kiowa, Cheyenne, and Arapaho who refused reservation life and break their ability to resist forever. The U.S. Army launched multiple columns from different directions, crisscrossing the Texas Panhandle in a coordinated effort to locate and destroy Indian camps. General Philip Sheridan, who had helped defeat the Confederacy in the Civil War, now turned his military genius against the Plains tribes. His strategy was simple and brutal: give no quarter, strike in winter when families were most vulnerable, destroy food supplies and horses, make survival impossible. On September 28, 1874, Colonel Ranald Mackenzie's forces discovered a massive Comanche, Kiowa, and Cheyenne encampment in Palo Duro Canyon. At dawn, Mackenzie's cavalry descended the steep canyon walls in a daring attack. The warriors fought desperately to cover their families' escape. Few Indians died in the initial assault, but Mackenzie's troops captured or destroyed everything. Over 1,000 horses, tons of food, hundreds of teepees, winter clothing, and weapons. Then Mackenzie did something that broke the back of Comanche resistance. He ordered his men to kill all the captured horses. Over 1,000 horses were shot, including irreplaceable breeding stock and war horses that represented decades of wealth accumulation. The sound of gunfire echoed through Palo Duro Canyon for hours as soldiers systematically destroyed the Comanche's most valuable possession. Without horses, without food, without shelter, as winter approached, the Comanche faced an impossible choice: starve on the plains or surrender to the reservation. By the spring of 1875, most Comanche bands had surrendered, but one held out. The Quahati, the most isolated and fiercely independent band, led by a half-white, half-Comanche warrior named Quanah Parker. Quanah's story was uniquely tragic. His mother, Cynthia Ann Parker, had been captured by Comanches as a 9-year-old child in 1836. She was raised Comanche, married the war chief Peta Nocona, and bore 3 children, including Quana. In 1860, Texas Rangers attacked their camp, recaptured Cynthia Ann and her infant daughter, and claimed to have killed Peta Nocona. Though Quana always insisted his father died years later from old battle wounds, Cynthia Ann, fully Comanche in her heart after 24 years, never adjusted back to white society. Her daughter died of illness. Cynthia Ann reportedly starved herself to death in 1871, heartbroken and unable to return to her Comanche family. Quana never forgot what the whites took from him. He became a fearsome war leader, striking terror across the Texas frontier. But by June of 1875, even he could see the end had come. According to legend, Quana rode to a mesa and saw a wolf approach, howl, and trot northeast toward Fort Sill. Overhead, an eagle circled and then flew in the same direction. He took this as a sign from the spirits. On June 2nd, 1875, Quanah Parker led the last free Comanche band into Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and surrendered. The Comanche Empire was over. The lords of the plains were now prisoners of the American government. The reservation period was designed to destroy everything that made the Comanche who they were. Government agents saw their mission as killing the Indian and saving the man through forced assimilation. Children were torn from their families and sent to boarding schools hundreds of miles away. There, they were forbidden to speak Comanche, forced to cut their hair, dress in American clothing, and adopt Christian names. Teachers beat children for speaking their native language. The goal was cultural genocide, to erase Comanche identity completely within a generation. The Dawes Act of 1887 broke up communal reservation lands into individual allotments, with each person receiving 160 acres. The remaining surplus land was open to white settlement. This policy shattered Comanche social structures, which had always been communal rather than individual. The buffalo were gone, hunted to near extinction in a deliberate strategy to destroy Plains Indian independence. The vast horse herds that represented Comanche wealth were sold off or confiscated. The traditional economy collapsed. The Comanche were expected to become farmers on land ill-suited to agriculture, practicing a lifestyle completely alien to their nomadic culture. Starvation was common. Disease ravaged reservation communities. The Comanche population, which may have numbered 20,000 or more at its peak, fell to just a few thousand by the 1890s. But the Comanche didn't disappear. Against all odds, they survived. The same Quanah Parker, who had been one of the fiercest Comanche warriors, became one of the most effective advocates for his people in their new reality. He added his mother's surname to his name, becoming Quanah Parker, symbolically bridging two worlds. Quana understood that the old way of life was gone forever, but he also understood that the Comanche could adapt, as they always had. He learned English, though he never forgot Comanche. He adopted some American ways while stubbornly maintaining others. He wore suits and met with American presidents. But he also kept his multiple wives, practiced the peyote religion, and wore his hair in traditional braids. The U.S. government appointed Quana as principal chief of all Comanche, a position that had never existed in traditional Comanche society, but one he used to advocate for his people's rights. He negotiated grazing leases with Texas cattlemen, allowing them to graze cattle on Comanche land in exchange for substantial payments. He invested in railroads and became a wealthy man, perhaps the richest Indian in America at the time. But wealth didn't corrupt Quana. He used his influence and connections to help his people. He established schools so Comanche children could get education without being sent far away. He worked with government agents to secure better food supplies and living conditions. He hosted visiting dignitaries, including President Theodore Roosevelt, at his 10-room house called Star House, showing Americans that Indians could succeed in the modern world without abandoning their identity. Quana also played a crucial role in protecting and spreading the peyote religion. When the Comanche were at their lowest point in the late 1800s, many turned to peyote ceremonies for spiritual solace and community unity. The all-night ceremonies held in teepees, with their sacred fire, ritual singing, and sacramental use of peyote, provided a way to maintain cultural identity when everything else was being stripped away. The U.S. government tried to ban peyote, seeing it as a dangerous drug, but Quana and other leaders argued successfully that it was a religious sacrament. In 1918, shortly after Quana's death in 1911, the Native American Church was formally incorporated, legally protecting peyote ceremonies. Today, over 400,000 Native Americans across more than 50 tribes practice this faith, a living legacy of Comanche spiritual resilience. When Quanah Parker died in 1911, his funeral procession stretched over a mile long. He was buried next to his mother, Cynthia Ann, and his sister, Prairie Flower. Thousands mourned him: Comanche, Kiowa, white ranchers, government officials. They recognized that he had done something extraordinary. He had helped his people survive the transition from freedom to reservation while maintaining their dignity and identity. The 20th century brought new challenges for the Comanche. During both World Wars, Comanche men served with distinction in the U.S. military. In World War I, Comanche were among the first code talkers, using their language to send messages that German forces couldn't decipher. In World War II, 17 young Comanche code talkers used their native language to transmit sensitive information that couldn't be broken by the enemy. This service came at a cost to the language. Many veterans returned home speaking primarily English, believing it was better for their children not to know Comanche, the language that had once been the lingua franca of the Southern Plains was dying out, spoken by fewer people each generation. In 1934, the Indian Reorganization Act allowed tribes to establish formal governments. In 1967, the Comanche adopted a tribal constitution, creating a unified tribal government for the first time in their history, the Comanche Nation was officially established with elected leadership and defined governmental structures. But recognition didn't equal prosperity. Through much of the 20th century, Comanche people struggled with poverty, limited educational opportunities, and the ongoing impacts of historical trauma. Alcoholism, diabetes, and other health issues plagued the community. The reservation period had left deep scars, yet through all of this, a core group of Comanche elders kept the culture alive. They told the old stories to children, practiced traditional crafts, held ceremonies, and spoke the language when they could. They were cultural warriors, fighting a different kind of battle to preserve Comanche identity for future generations. Today, the Comanche Nation stands as a testament to survival and renewal. With approximately 17,000 enrolled members, the tribe is headquartered in Lawton, Oklahoma, with tribal jurisdictions spanning 8 counties in southwest Oklahoma. The modern Comanche Nation operates as a sovereign government. They issue their own vehicle tags, operate their own housing authority, and run their own Department of Higher Education that awards scholarships to tribal members pursuing college degrees. This sovereignty, hard-won through decades of legal battles and political advocacy, allows the Comanche to control their own destiny in ways impossible during the reservation period. Economic development has been crucial to the tribe's renewal. The Comanche Nation operates 7 casino locations across southwest Oklahoma, including the Comanche Nation Casino in Lawton and the Comanche Red River Hotel Casino. These enterprises, which began with a bingo hall in 1983, now generate revenue that funds tribal programs, creates jobs, and provides services to members. Recent expansion plans include new hotels, event centers, and entertainment facilities that will bring additional economic growth. The tribe also operates smoke shops, travel plazas, and other businesses. This economic foundation allows the Comanche Nation to invest in healthcare, education, elder care, youth programs, and cultural preservation initiatives that would be impossible without sovereign income. But perhaps the most vital effort is language revitalization. By the early 2000s, fewer than 50 fluent speakers of Comanche remained, almost all elderly. The language that had once been spoken by tens of thousands was on the verge of extinction. In 2018, the Comanche Tribal Council approved funding for the Comanche Nation Language Department, working in partnership with the Comanche Language and Cultural Preservation Committee, which had been documenting the language since 1993. Together, they've created dictionaries, developed teaching curriculum, certified language teachers, and launched online courses through platforms like MWIS and 7,000 Languages. In 2024, a new comprehensive Comanche language course was launched, free to anyone who wants to learn. The goal is ambitious: to create new speakers, to bring the language back from the edge of extinction, to ensure that Nahma I Tanu Numuni Wunu, let's all speak Comanche together, becomes reality rather than just hope. The Comanche National Museum and Cultural Center in Lawton, which opened in 2007, houses permanent and changing exhibitions on Comanche history, art, and culture. It's a place where tribal members can connect with their heritage and where non-Comanches can learn the true history of the Lords of the Plains. Every year, the Comanche gather for the homecoming powwow in Walters, Oklahoma, and the Comanche Nation Fair in September. These gatherings bring together Comanche people from across the United States, a diaspora reuniting to celebrate their shared identity through dance, song, food, and ceremony. Young people in regalia dance to drums, elders share stories, families reconnect. These gatherings prove that the Comanche spirit, that fierce independence, that adaptive strength, that refusal to be erased still burns bright. The Comanche today are teachers, soldiers, doctors, artists, ranchers, business people, students. They serve in Congress, lead corporations, win academic awards, and create beautiful art. They are modern Americans and traditional Numanu simultaneously, proving that these identities are not contradictory but complementary. The story of the Comanche is not just a story of the past. It's a story of the present and future. It's a story that challenges simplistic narratives of inevitable native decline. Yes, the Comanche were conquered. Yes, they suffered terribly, but they were never defeated. They adapted, survived, and now thrive in ways their ancestors a century ago might have thought impossible. From mountain hunters to masters of the plains, from fierce warriors to skilled diplomats, from the greatest cavalry force the world has known to a modern sovereign nation navigating the 21st century, through every transformation, through every trial, they have remained Numanu, the people. The Comanche Empire may have fallen, but the Comanche Nation endures. And in that endurance, in that refusal to vanish into history, in that determination to preserve language and culture and identity for future generations, the spirit of the Lords of the Plains lives on. This is not just the history of one Native American tribe. This is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the power of cultural identity, to the possibility of survival against impossible odds. The Comanche story is far from over. It continues today in classrooms where children learn their ancestral language, in ceremonies where traditions are practiced, in tribal council meetings where the future is planned, in the hearts of 17,000 people who carry forward a legacy centuries old and yet eternally young. Nama e tanu numuni wunu. Let us all speak Comanche together. Let us remember, let us honor, let us never forget the Lords of the Southern Plains. The story of the Comanche challenges everything we think we know about American history. These were not victims of progress. They were empire builders, master strategists, cultural survivors who shaped the destiny of a continent. If this epic journey moved you, please support this channel by liking this video and subscribing to Ancient Spirit Tales. Share this story with others so more people can learn the true history of the Comanche Nation. Leave a comment telling us what aspect of Comanche history surprised you most. And join us next time as we explore another ancient culture whose story demands to be told. Until then, remember, history belongs to those brave enough to preserve it.